Somewhere in your first 2 or 3 years of life, something happened to you constantly, and you remember almost none of it. You learned to walk, you learned to speak. You felt love, fear, hunger, and comfort more intensely than at almost any other point in your life. And yet, if someone asked you to describe a single specific memory from before age 3, you likely couldn't produce one. You probably assume your brain just wasn't developed enough yet to form memories. But the real answer is far stranger. Your infant brain wasn't failing to record those years. In many ways, it was recording constantly, learning at a pace you will never match again. The problem isn't that the memories weren't made. The problem is that almost none of them survive in a form you can access today. This phenomenon has a name. Psychologists call it infantile amnesia, and it isn't unique to you. It's universal. Every human alive experiences it, across every culture, every language, every era of history. So what's actually going on? To understand it, you have to separate two things people often confuse: learning and autobiographical memory. Psychologist Carolyn Rovee-Collier at Rutgers University spent decades studying infant memory using a clever experimental setup. She would tie a ribbon from a baby's ankle to a mobile hanging above their crib. Infants quickly learned that kicking made the mobile move, and they'd keep kicking with excitement. Weeks later, when researchers reconnected the ribbon, infants as young as 2 or 3 months old would immediately start kicking again, remembering the connection. This proves something important. Infants can learn. Infants can retain information. Memory, in some form, is absolutely present from a very early age. So if Barbies can remember a mobile weeks later, why can't you remember anything at all from that same period of your life? The answer lies in the difference between procedural memory and autobiographical memory. The mobile experiment reflects a type of memory called procedural or associative memory, the kind of memory involved in learning skills, habits, and simple cause and effect relationships. This system is remarkably functional even in very young infants. But the kind of memory you're trying to access when you ask, "What do I remember from being 2 years old?" is different. It's called episodic or autobiographical memory, the ability to consciously recall a specific event tied to a particular time and place that happened to you. That system develops on a completely different timeline. Neuroscientist and memory researcher Patricia Bauer at Emory University has spent much of her career studying exactly when and how autobiographical memory develops in early childhood. Her research shows that the hippocampus, the brain structure critical for forming and consolidating long-term autobiographical memories, is still undergoing major structural development throughout infancy and early childhood. It's not that the hippocampus is absent. It's that the specific neural architecture required to encode a memory in a way that can be retrieved years later, complete with a sense of time, place, and personal context, simply isn't fully online yet. Bauer's research suggests that this system continues maturing gradually through early childhood, which is part of why memories from ages 3, 4, and 5 tend to be sparse and fragmented, while memories from age 7 or 8 onward become progressively more stable and detailed. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. For decades, one popular explanation assumed that infants simply couldn't form episodic memories at all during this period, but newer research complicates that picture significantly. Psychologist Nora Newcombe at Temple University has argued that young children clearly can form and briefly hold onto specific memories of events. The real mystery isn't necessarily that these memories fail to form. It's that they fail to persist long-term into adulthood. Newcombe's research points toward a combination of factors: the still developing hippocampus, the absence of language during the earliest years to help organize and later retrieve memories verbally, and a rapidly reorganizing brain that may essentially overwrite or fail to properly consolidate very early memory traces as new neurons and connections form. That last point is genuinely strange when you sit with it. Your brain, during your first few years of life, is adding new neurons and reorganizing existing connections at an extraordinary rate. Some researchers believe this intense neurogenesis may actually work against long-term memory storage, essentially disrupting the delicate neural circuits where early episodic memories would otherwise be consolidated. In other words, the same explosive brain growth that allowed you to learn language, recognize faces, and understand your environment at a pace you'll never repeat may be part of the exact reason none of it stuck as retrievable memory. Your brain wasn't broken during those years. It was almost too busy building itself to also preserve a detailed personal record of the process. There's another piece to this puzzle that's easy to overlook: language. Before you could speak in full sentences, you had no internal narrative structure to organize your experiences into a story you could later retrieve. Memory researchers have found that the emergence of language coincides closely with the point where autobiographical memories start becoming more retrievable and durable. Talking about an experience, describing it, hearing it repeated back to you by a caregiver, giving it words and structure, appears to help memories move from fragile and fleeting into something more stable and long-term. Without that verbal scaffolding, even genuine early memories may exist for a while and then simply dissolve, never fully integrated into the ongoing story you tell about your own life. So what does this actually mean for you? It means the years you can't remember weren't empty. They were arguably some of the most intensely formative years of your entire life. Your sense of trust, your attachment style, your basic emotional patterns, your earliest understanding of language and cause and effect, all of it was being built during exactly the period you can't consciously recall. You are, in a very real sense, shaped by years you have no direct memory of at all. That should change how you think about early childhood, both your own and anyone else's. The absence of memory doesn't mean the absence of experience. It doesn't mean the absence of impact. It simply means your brain was doing something during those years that mattered more than record keeping. It was building the foundation everything else would eventually stand on. So the next time you wonder why you can't remember anything from before you were 3, you're not looking at a gap. You're looking at the invisible construction site where the rest of your mind was built, running at a pace so fast, so intense, and so foundational that keeping a photo album simply wasn't the priority. The memories are gone, but you are the proof they happened.